Okay, this is part 5 of How the Catholic Church Built Civilization by Thomas Woods. And we're going to talk right now a little bit about the Middle Ages. This right here is a painting of King Clovis at Rheims. He was a French king, king of the Franks. And once he was converted to Christianity, he would convert all his people. And this brought Christianity to France. And it also led to Rheims then being a site for coronations. When a king was converted, they convert their whole population. This happened in about 500 A.D. Rheims Cathedral, built in the 1200s. Okay. Now, some of the things about the Catholic Church is it has sacraments and a lot of traditions that build community and routine into the life of a Christian. There is the resurrection of Christ, celebrated on Easter Sunday. The crucifixion is, Good Friday. There's the baptism of the newborn baby. There's the last rites at death. There's the first communion. These are some of the 7 sacraments of Christianity. Okay. And I went to Catholic school for part of my education, and it was good. There was a really tight community. Everybody knew each other. The teachers and the nuns were in charge. You had to behave in school. There was no nonsense. None, zero, nada. Okay? No, there was no drugs, no sex, no fighting, none of that stuff. Okay? So here's a beautiful painting by Sandro Botticelli, the great, one of the 2 greatest artists of the 1400s, him and Rogier van der Weyden. Okay? So this is a painting called The Mystic Nativity. Notice the colors of the angels' dresses. There's red, white, and green. Okay, and I'm wearing this tie. I got a green suit today, and the green suit is like the evergreen tree for everlasting life. Green is the color of life. It's also the color of hope, of restoration, like the resurrection. As the plants, die off in the winter, they come back again in the spring. Okay, so I'm wearing the Christian tie here. So that's the color white is the color of faith, also the color to symbolize purity, like the bride at a wedding is supposed to be a virgin, wears white. The red is for love, like the love of Christ to sacrifice his life for mankind. It's also the color of love in general, the color of Christ's blood. In the Bibles, you'll often see the quotes of Christ are written in red ink to symbolize Christ's love and sacrifice for mankind. And so faith is the white, hope is the green, and charity, faith, hope, and charity, the 3 colors of the Catholic Church, and the charity, of course, also meaning love. So there it is. So these are also considered the colors of Christmas. These are also considered the colors of the Italian flag. Okay, and so you can reflect on that. And Italy right now is being sided by global communism. Okay, the EU is communism. Okay, it's destroying all of Christendom intentionally. It doesn't want Christendom to continue. So you should speak up for Christianity, because if people don't support it now, it's fading fast. It's losing. So anyways, beautiful painting. Christianity is beautiful. 99+% of the beautiful art, it all comes from Christianity. Okay, so here, it's a nice painting by Norman Rockwell called Saving Grace. And basically, Christianity teaches good morals, how to behave. It teaches you a good worldview, to be thoughtful, to think of others, not just yourself, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to do the right thing. As St. Augustine had said, right is right, even if no one is doing it. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. And that actually builds a backbone in a person, that I shall do what is right in the eyes of Christ, rather than what some secular ruler wants, okay? So you kind of get the sense that this is as it should be, saying grace before the meal. Okay, now here is a family dinner, like the Thanksgiving dinner, and Christianity is very much about that, of the family being together, preservation of the family, preservation of life, helping each other, the generations getting along with each other and helping each other. Okay, here is a Spirit of Christmas by Thomas Kinkade, one of the most famous painters of all time. And what you see is all the bright lights. And again, it's Christianity that makes Christmas the greatest holiday of the entire year. It's the highlight of the whole year is Christmas time. So instead of being bleak winter, Christians are the light of the world, and the Christmas lights are just part of that. Notice how beautiful that is. And again, it's a celebration of the family, of life, of the birth of the baby, of the birth of Christ. Okay, now here is the coronation of Charlemagne, which is for Charles the Great. Okay, and his time of rule of him and his set of kings and descendants was called the Carolingian Empire, the Carolingian monarchs. And they had replaced the previous rule of monarchs like coming out of Clovis and his ilk, the Merovingian monarchs, okay? And the Carolingian Renaissance was that Charlemagne strongly emphasized education. He hired the scholar of Latin, Alcuin, to teach everybody Latin as well so they could read the ancient books. And he insisted that the monks translate all of the ancient books available to them from ancient Greece and Rome into Latin to make them available. And he also insisted that the cathedrals be used, the early cathedrals of his time, be used to be made into schools. And so he very strongly, pretty much all the books that had reached these times, like the late 700s, they made it up to modern world because so many copies were made of them. Okay. And the Pope gradually ran the school system because it was run through the cathedral schools. So the Catholic Church was civilization. You know, luckily, Charlemagne, sort of like the Holy Roman Empire, Holy Roman Emperor, strongly pushed education as well. But you can see how good all of this is. This is where literacy was preserved. This is where the great books were preserved. Okay. Now here is a map showing some of the famous cities in France that have great cathedrals. Chartres, Paris, Amiens, Reims. Okay, so here's one of the cathedrals. This is at Reims. You know, it's a coronation of King Louis XV, and it shows how the cathedrals were not just for religious ceremonies, they were also for big public events. You know, for having the Mass every weekend, but the Mass on holidays, the coronations of the king, and other big events. They were also used for astronomy. We're going to come to that more in a little bit. Here is, you know, at Chapelle, King Louis XV departs a ceremony. Okay. So beautiful paintings here. The cathedrals are just magnificent. They're the most beautiful buildings ever made. This is Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. Just look how magnificent that is. It's like stunning. These are the flying buttresses to brace the walls so the walls can extend higher and have more windows. Kind of the goal of the cathedrals was to get more light into the inside. As you can see, it's magnificent. Here's one of the rose windows on the transept. Okay, here's the nave, the long axis of the building. Notice with the transept crossing, it makes the shape of a cross. That is the shape of cathedrals. There's a symbolism and a synergy to Christian art, sculpture, architecture that's all magnificent. Coronation of King Charles VII at Reims with Joan of Arc standing next to him. They had chased the British out of France in 1429. And it's beautiful. And one of the things you notice, this is how beautiful cathedrals are. You see the color of the stained glass windows, the magnificence of the rising arches to the high vaulted ceiling looking up to heaven. And you see the color of the furniture, the statuary, the symbolism. It's all quite beautiful. And there's often paintings and sculptures. They have a synergistic beauty to them. They complement each other. Here's the front of Reims Cathedral. Notice the three doors, you know, earth, hell, and heaven. The rose window above the main entrance. Okay, Christ's Last Judgment is often in this location on many churches of the three entry doors to the front of a cathedral, the facade. You'll see saints in statues quite often along the interior part of a cathedral. Okay. You'll often see the Old Testament kings up in these areas. Okay, these are the front towers of the cathedral. And I just say to you, like here's Notre Dame Cathedral in France. You can see this has got more of the traditional type sculptures. This is called the tympanum, like above the tympanic cavity. And the characteristic appearance over the three front doors of the front facade, the rose window. Okay, Old Testament kings. And you can just see how magnificently beautiful that is. It's stunning. You know, And this is also the creation of a free man. It was the free man built these cathedrals. The people were very proud of these cathedrals. Some cathedrals would take 100 years to build as they needed time and money. Okay, and compare this like to a pyramid in Egypt. I mean, give me a break. It's built by slaves. A kid in grade school could put a couple blocks together and build a pyramid, all right? This is magnificent. These are the best buildings that have ever been made. There's no comparison. Okay, now I just want you to see what a piece of crap, no pun intended, modern art is. This is modern art, a statue of a turd. It's a disgrace. People should not allow this to be put in public, okay? This is an insult. This is an insult to the citizenry. And look at these buildings, these ugly buildings, these modern institutional buildings. They look like a bunch of animal cages, as Tom Wolfe, the great American writer, said, every modern office building looks like an animal cage, and it has a statue of a turd in front. It's a disgrace. It's an insult. Imagine if a Renaissance person came from the Italian Renaissance, came to modern America or any Western world city and said, look, you've got a statue of a turd in front of an animal cage. What is wrong with you people? You are depraved. You're satanic. You're evil. You're stupid. You're vulgar. You're disgusting. This is an insult. It's a disgrace. It really, you should speak up about that. If you accept that kind of filth and degradation, it'll be heaped upon you. Okay, so here's Kenneth Clark from his famous book Civilization, made into a movie, and he was talking, for a while about the magnificence of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It's quite stunning, and Kenneth Clark, he was good. He pointed out how magnificent the cathedrals were, how magnificent the Sistine Chapel and all these other great things. Okay, now here's another inside look at a cathedral of Reims. And just look at the magnificent arched vault of the central nave leading up to the rose window where the light, like the light of Christ comes into the building, the light out of Plato's cave, okay? The side aisles and stuff, and the high ceiling, the stained glass windows, it's magnificent. Okay, now here's Chartres Cathedral. Okay, look at that rose window, magnificent, with Christ in the center, the high ceilings, all this characteristic, beautiful paintings. Okay, Chartres had a very famous cathedral school of Chartres in full bloom by the 1100s. The man Thierry of Chartres was a school chancellor, and he really helped develop the curriculum. And they taught, similar to the Romans, seven liberal arts like the trivium, grammar, rhetoric, and logic, the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Okay. And this is education. This is the preservation of civilization. Just remember, this stuff is built like in the 1200s. Christian civilization in the 1200s is, off the charts magnificent, whereas other civilizations around the world, if you can't even really use that word civilization, they're living in a teepee or a hut. They're all illiterate, okay? This is magnificent. Look how magnificent these buildings are. They're stunning. They're still the most beautiful buildings in the world today. This again was Chartres Cathedral. Here's another cathedral in France, Sainte-Chapelle, okay, the Holy Chapel. Saint is saint, Chapelle is chapel. It's a Gothic church. These stained glass windows, they're magnificent. Look at all the statuary, the sculptures. It's just beautiful. Okay, and they claim to have a fragment of the true cross of Christ's crucifixion. Okay, it's just, what could be more beautiful than that? Good luck finding architecture more beautiful than that. It's magnificent. Here is the high arched vault ceiling of Sainte-Chapelle. Magnificent. And the other thing too, there's the magnificent statue at the altar. And then here's in Chartres Cathedral, and that's actually the Assumption of Mary, is that beautiful statue. Here's the church organ, and they're great. And look at a Catholic Mass is very beautiful in a cathedral. You have the stunning sunlight coming in through the stained glass windows. You have the beautiful statuary. You'll often have beautiful fresco paintings and canvas paintings on the wall. You'll have beautiful music. And I'm just going to show you the next picture here. So here's this lovely lady, singing one of these beautiful Christian songs. Behind her is all the Old Testament kings with the statuary. Then you're going to lead up to the high vaulted ceilings. It's beautiful. you get the sense Christ would see this and be happy. Yes, this is what I want my creatures to do, to worship me, to enjoy beautiful music, to be nice to each other. It's magnificent. Okay, and here's just, another church. This is Chartres again. And just look how beautiful the statuary is. Scenes from the Bible, stained glass windows. It just goes on and on. It's magnificent. It's incredible. Okay, so that's the end of part 5 on how the Catholic Church built civilization from the book by Tom Woods. I hope you find this interesting and helpful.